Affinity Xtra, be extra.
Me and Roger wearing Batman tops today. Anyway. 3, 2, 1. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another great show. It is me yet again with Rose. How we doing?
Hi, I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good.
we've not been. It feels like we've not been here for a bit of a while.
Yeah, I've missed you.
Yeah, I've missed you too, and I've missed doing this.
Yeah.
See, it's nice doing as a team. We're like Batman and Robin, Peaches and Herb. Do you know who Peach and Herb is?
Who's Peaches and
Peach and Herb is like a singing group.
Are they?
I've never actually heard of any of their tracks personally, but
Okay.
they're always referred to as Peaches and Herb. Like Mike, you've heard obviously like I can't think of the basketball duo now. Kobe Bryant and Shaq. You know who that is?
I know Kobe Bryant.
You don't know who Shaq is?
No. Why are you doing a test?
Because you got to remember, like these are the duos. Okay, like Batman and Robin, you've heard of.
I know Batman
Okay,
and
well,
Robin.
just
Yeah.
basically
Okay.
the duo. Anyway, guys,
We got there.
we're back on that one again. So yes, we are back again with another amazing show. Thank you all for tuning in. Now, of course, today's subject we're gonna try and keep it light as we can. Well, it's a bit of a deep subject actually, and for those of you that watch the news and been following this story, up until recently, there was the story or the situation of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amber Heard, yeah.
Now, Johnny Depp did something that not many of us thought was going to happen, and he actually won a domestic violence case where it worked out that he was the victim, where initially the story was made out to be Amber being the victim.
Initially, yeah.
Yeah, and so, just out of interest, did you think he was guilty?
Well, I didn't watch the first trial, the
Okay.
one that he lost.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really interested in that, just this case.
Yeah.
And then just coming with fresh eyes,
Yeah.
I did think, as usual, the man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then the more she spoke,
The
the
more
more
you
I thought, something don't add up here. It's like she knows what to say because maybe she's read
Rehearsed
it
it.
or rehearsed it or been
Yeah.
around a lot of people that have been through domestic violence. So I kind of got that from her. But initially I did think, what's all this about? He must have done it.
I thought he did it. I'm not going to lie. I was very much like, it's an open and shut case. It's
Yeah.
Johnny Depp. It's a guy. He's famous. He's big. And actually,
Yeah.
we've seen this countless times before.
Yeah.
So obviously, he's not going to come out and say, yes, I hit her, because
Yeah.
obviously he's got a reputation to look after.
Yeah.
There's business and things like that.
Yeah.
But then the more I was watching it, and like you said, the more it sounded like Amber was rehearsing her answers, the more I was thinking, maybe it was 50-50.
Yeah.
So there's bruises on both. So actually, he hit her, she hit him back. There's retaliation.
Yeah.
So now everyone's in their business.
Yeah.
And then when I watched it more, I thought, actually, he's in a bit of a dark place. Actually,
Absolutely.
he could be the victim. But I didn't let myself go there because, again, he's male. And I
Yeah.
just thought, as a guy, you're not going to like, you're Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
telling us that your lady smacked you up and you were silent and did nothing about it, and now we're here because you're a crime victim.
Yeah.
So I was very much like, I don't think that is the case, but unfortunately, believably, it was.
It seems like it is. At one point, I did think this is 50-50. This is a real toxic relationship. And then I don't know what he said on the stand. He said something, and I thought, oh my God, he's the victim.
Yeah.
It was just something that he said.
Do you remember what he said though?
I can't remember what he said. It was just because I've been through domestic violence.
Yeah.
So I can't remember exactly what he said, but I connected. I'd never connected with her. Even though she was saying all the right things.
Yeah.
I never really connected with her. And I've spoke to a lot of women that have been through domestic violence.
Yeah.
And you connect.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I know we're on the TV screen.
Yeah,
but
that's
I
true.
still would have expected something. And I didn't.
Something tangible that you recognize. Actually, I recognize those words and how that person's feeling. Actually, that sounds more authentic.
Yeah. It wasn't the textbook
Yeah.
domestic violence. It was
Yeah.
something deeper that women have got in common.
Yeah.
That have been through domestic violence. And he said it, whatever the word is, I just can't remember what he said.
But you
but
took-
he said it.
Yeah.
And then that's when I thought, oh my God, it's him.
It's him.
And I think it's before he said, actually, I'm the victim. It was before he said that.
And it's funny you say that, because I remember in one of the news things that I was watching, they were saying that apparently his team told him not to come out and say that he was the victim because society wouldn't believe him. Because society, when it comes to domestic violence, stats are always higher for women. It's always men that are doing stuff like that. And so actually for someone, again, like Johnny Depp to come out and say he was the victim, as a society, we wouldn't accept that because it's unbelievable. So it's kind of sad that that's the times we're living in.
Yeah.
But then bringing it to our kind of area, it's funny because I was talking to a friend and he was saying, do you not recognize how much domestic violence is happening within the church?
Yeah.
And I was like, but I don't think it does. Like, it's never been mentioned.
Yeah.
You don't hear the pastor talk about it. You don't. I would have thought you'd see it.
No.
Yeah.
You know, as Christians, we taught to just pray about it.
Absolutely. It does my head in. And I don't mean, before you start calling in and saying, I mean you don't pray about it.
Yeah.
I feel sometimes, it says pray without ceasing, but then faith without works is dead. And I feel like sometimes when we say that, it means there's an action, not just sit down and pray. There's other things we should be doing too.
Yeah.
So you're right. I think we do just pray about, we're told to pray about it, but sorry, I'll let you continue.
Yeah. No. And also the divorce in church is a big no, isn't it? They want you to pray about it and stay in it.
You know, the thing is, I'm going to go off subject.
Not all churches.
Not all churches. But again, but then I also feel that church doesn't do a good job at all in talking or covering relationships. Yeah. So I think we're very good at singles events, and I'm not dissing people who do single stuff as well, but if you're single, there's a club to go to.
Yeah.
But if you're married, well, you're already part of a club. So there's nothing to be involved with unless you kind of create your own niche little nets and teams and you start meeting up with people. And even then, unless it's a real friendship that's kind of knitted and entrenched, then it's just a surface one of performance of how good our relationship looks. We're in church, he prays, and
a performance.
Yeah, complete performance. And then sometimes you're like, well, actually, like, because I remember asking the pastor before, at what point do you think we should be telling the couple it's all right to get divorced? And he was like, that's not something we say. Yeah. I'm like, but actually, should we be having the conversation about people and being together and maybe should be divorced? And again, he was very against it. Like, I'm anti-divorce. I'm anti-divorce too, and I get that. Yeah. But do you let someone stay in a relationship where they're being beaten up, they're getting cussed, they're being hurt, they're unhappy, but they're so good at performing?
Yeah, because they have to.
Because they have to, they have to. So it's a case of...
Or they feel they have to. It's not that they have to, they feel they have to.
Well, okay. Yeah. But then do they feel they have to because there isn't anywhere that they can go to for that support?
There's no one, is there? Is there?
What? Which makes it really even more sad.
We don't really talk about domestic violence.
No, we don't.
In church.
No.
I've not heard a message about it. I've not heard... like how you get these meetings for women, and I don't really... The ones that I've been to or seen on online, they've not really addressed domestic violence. No. So it's kind of...
Hush, quiet.
Yeah, and no one's putting their hand up to say, look, I'm going through it right now.
But is it the safe place to do so if all we're going to do is practicing is praying about the situation?
Yeah.
And that's assuming that people know how to pray.
Yeah.
Because there's an expectation there that you're a Christian, you know how to pray. Yeah. I've realised some people praying, it's not easy for everybody. So, whether they go with that one, it's an interesting one.
I think you can pray and pray and pray and pray. But if this, whether the female or the male is the perpetrator, whoever it is, if they're not going to change, they're making a decision to treat the woman that particular way, to lash out. Absolutely. It's not even about just physical violence. It's the control, the putting down and belittling them. There's so much in it. Yeah. So praying about it isn't always going to be the answer there. It's not. And you know what? It's funny when we talked about church and things happening that way, because I remember having a discussion with someone recently, and it wasn't until someone made me see it. I can't unsee it now, so you're going to have to go on this journey with me now. Okay. And they were saying, if you look at church, it's very made up of a lot of women. Yeah. So most of it is women. And then a lot of men
So most big roles in the church is often the men. So
Absolutely.
the pastor, the deacon, praise and worship team's often the keyboard player, the bass player. I haven't really gone to a church and seen an all women praise and worship team. In terms from the singing to the musicians. So musicians are often male, the singers are often female, and usually if there's a male in the singing group, they end up sometimes being at the front, or they're kind of number 2 kind of thing. So then when you see all that, you think to yourself, it's very, and I'm not dissing church in any way, but I'm just saying the setup can sometimes be very him and her.
Yeah.
And so if it is the guy who is doing all the domestic violence and he's got a position up front and he's doing so well,
Who can you go to?
who do you go to?
I mean, I wasn't in church when I was going through domestic violence, but these men are very together, you know.
Yeah.
They're very intelligent guys, and if anything, it's the woman. Somehow the woman ends up looking like the crazy one.
Yeah.
I don't know how they spin it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I wasn't at church when I was going through it, but I just know that character.
Yeah.
And I think it would be very difficult. By the time the guy has finished with that woman, it'd be very difficult for her to say, look, I'm going through that because of fear and because she might think it's her fault.
Yeah.
So a lot of different reasons.
Do you think there's a look or a characteristic of vulnerable women that end up in those kind of relationships? Because I feel like there's friends I remember growing up with, and I used to hate hearing that, where's all the good guys gone?
Yeah.
Because I'm in relationships and he's cheated, he's done this, he's done that. And I'm like, but you keep going out for them saying kind of idiot at them. Like, that's you. And actually, I think some women, and some, well, I'm going to say some women, some men, I think they dress and they behave and they attract that sometimes.
You saying the woman?
Both men and women.
I'm saying the men are picking these women, they know the character.
So if they're picking the character, then does that mean that they see the look or the characteristic that says,
I think they see something about this woman or male that they can at some point start controlling.
Okay.
That's what it's all about, fear and control.
Yeah, true.
And I believe, I don't know what discerning gift these men have got.
Gift
but
from the devil.
Somehow.
We don't give gifts.
And because they know how to woo the woman and bring them in, that woman's just smitten.
Yeah. But then they're smitten because they're obviously giving something that they want.
Yeah, they know.
So the words and the charm and the...
Absolutely.
Yeah, or the characteristics.
Absolutely. And that woman is not going to see that angry, that
Red
manipulative
flags.
character. They're not going to see it at all.
Like,
What are you doing?
sorry about that, guys. Our music got a bit messed up there. Better mute our stuff there properly. So you think they don't see it then? No. They don't recognise the red flags,
No.
or do they recognise it? But
I don't think
my endorphins are too into what we're doing.
I don't think they recognise it because the men don't show it at all. There needs to, from my experience and from the women that I've spoken to, I'm not an expert on this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
From experience.
and from what the women that I've spoken to, these guys do not hit the woman straight away. They woo them for a while. There's some sort of connection. So whether it's a child, you bought a house together, you've just got married. Before that, you will not see any sign of it. You have married a saint. You have dated a saint.
And then all of a sudden, Jekyll and Hyde turn around.
Absolutely.
I think we need to go to a track and then definitely come back on this one because I feel there's so much more. I mean, for me, I'm still learning on it. I think when I look at domestic violence, it isn't something that was very prevalent to me. So I didn't see it all the time. But then you hear of amazing, well, I shouldn't say amazing, but stories where you're amazed that you were there but didn't see it.
Yeah.
So when people come like he used to beat me, and you'd be like,
when?
Nah, him. Like him.
Yeah.
He's like you said, he's a saint. He goes to church, or he's one of the good guys. Like if someone was to break down, he's the dude that will push the car.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Or get himself wet and mash up. And then there's that kind of conversation of, well, what did you do to make him do that then?
Oh my God.
So then automatically you become the victim, well, the perpetrator of.
Yeah.
But he's a nice guy. You must have done something to him. You've messed him up.
See, this is the difference between Amber Heard.
Yeah.
She provoked him, and I'm not saying she's right.
Yeah.
I think something happened.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he did it on purpose or
Money.
I think something happened between them. I think they both
Yeah.
fought. Whether she got bruised or not, but it was both of them.
Yeah.
She's saying domestic violence when they were both toxic.
Yeah.
The domestic violence that I'm talking about is that woman has fallen in love with that guy.
Yeah.
And there was no inkling at all. And he's then snapped and then begins to start breaking her down. And by then, she's got very little friends around her as well. Very little people to talk to.
We're going to go to a track. Because there's so many questions I want to ask on this one. But yeah, we're going to a track. Now, we're going to go to one of my favourite guys I'm playing at the minute. Not ashamed, I'm a massive Chris Brown fan.
Okay.
For some tracks, there's some tracks on there where he sings way too much of the body and the analogy, and I don't need to hear that. Like, I did science in school, so I don't need to hear about the body parts that he finds fascinating and what he enjoys. But I do like his sound and his style, and we found an artist who has that. Okay. So if you're wondering, guys, his name's Saya.
Yeah.
I found him on, well, I'm not going to say it, my wife found him on YouTube, but my wife found him on YouTube. I always say my wife, man, she knows the music.
Yeah.
And so I've heard it, and now I'm well into this dude.
Okay.
So actually, this is the track from him, which is called Love, The Love, and it's featuring Lion. You'll like this one, trust me. Ready?
Okay.
If it plays.
Nothing but love coming straight to your speaker. Turn this one off. Yeah, tell them my brethren. Listen.
Where's that love at? Yeah. We need a little love. We need a little love. Said that's what we need right here. We need a little love. We need a little love. I'm praying to the Lord. Can you show me how to love so I can love like you? The way you do.
Yes. I'm say, big up man, is T1 like lion. Staying ready, rocking steady, they love the time on. Follow it, suits in all your life. A lion that leads the way. You will feel my vibe. But love is what we need. Oh yeah. What's in your heart? So much happening. Oh yeah. So take control if you run, things will apply. LOVE, we only have seen all night long.
There's gotta be a change somewhere. We gotta make a change round here. With a little love, it's as simple as that. You give me love, I give you love back. Well, where's that love at? Yeah. We need a little love, we need a little love. Said that's what we need right here. We need a little love, we need a little love. I'm praying to the Lord. Can you show me how to love so I can love like you? The way you do. So this a little love for you. Love is all you and I need. Uniting together is what we be wanting. You give it if you get it, and we giving it. Living is what we manifesting. It's for benefiting your life. Find a way to feel it now. No, 'cause loving is what everyone needs. Lord, we need you now. So let me hear you one time. There's gotta be a change somewhere. We gotta make a change round here. With a little love, it's as simple as that. You give me love, I give you love back. Well, where's that love at? Yeah. We need a little love, we need a little love. Said that's what we need right here. We need a little love, we need a little love. I'm praying to the Lord. Can you show me how to love so I can love like you? The way you do. So this a little, where's that love at? Yeah. We need a little love.
Yes, so that was Saya with Lion.
We need a little love.
What do you think?
It's okay.
I don't believe in that word. I rebuke the word okay. The Bible says good.
So I can love like you.
Boop, 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 boop. I think this is what people need on the praise and worship team.
Huh?
I think this is what we need in the praise and worship team at some churches.
More
is that
reggae?
track. Well, not more reggae. I think some churches rinse reggae.
Yeah.
And I feel if you keep doing that, someone's going to end up with like a Dutch pot and some chicken wings in the corner, and someone's going to start bubbling with some marijuana. But anyway,
In church?
hey, I went to church one time. I'm not going to say which church it was.
Yeah.
And somebody was smoking weed outside, and then I heard, and again, this is the comedian in me.
Yeah.
But the guy excites me like, the spirit is here, and I was like, it's not the spirit. It's not.
It's the weed.
Don't
Smell
get
of
that
the
right.
I'm not even
Yeah,
laughing.
it was the wrong type of spirit that took them, and maybe she was doing it as well. I don't know, because she disappeared for a few minutes. I'm not going to mention the church, but I will say though is it was in Birmingham.
Okay.
True story. But if you've just jumped in, then guys, me and Rose are still discussing a very important topic, actually. It started off about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Yeah.
But we've kind of led into recognizing domestic violence. And again, we both said as well, it's not really mentioned, covered in church at all. Like, between us, I don't think we've ever heard a preacher jump on stage and talk about it or even give a scriptural reading about it. What scripture could you give? Adam and Eve. Well, I'm not joking about it though, but
No,
I think he's now. I mean, before we went to the track, Rose made some good points about people who are the guys that recognize, particularly the women who are vulnerable, and then start manipulating them and kind of taking stuff like that. Now, so during the track, I was asking, how do friends and family recognize this as well? Because sometimes, like we mentioned before, and we're just going to touch on it, we're not going to go into it, but R. Kelly just got 30 years for molesting a lot of young women and women in general. And one of the things you mentioned as well was one of the families did try to rescue their daughter from there, but couldn't convince her to move away. So she was happy to live within that environment. And it's funny you say that, because I was also thinking about that classic film, Tina Turner.
Yeah.
That's a big film. Big it up, man.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched it and you're a millennial, then educate yourself. It's an amazing film. Obviously, it's about Tina Turner and her journey with Ike and the stuff that he did to her. And that was probably my first view of seeing domestic violence. And thinking, wow, like, is that how bad? Like, how can a guy really go in and beat up his partner to that extent? Like, that's crazy. And still expect to be together. It's mad. But then how do friends particularly, or what responsibility do friends and family have in supporting people in that situation?
It's tricky, because like I said to you, by the time that the woman's really into this guy, by the time he does that, and they're connected by something. So to break that is going to be now quite difficult. I think it's trying to educate people before, talk about it before, let the young girls know these red flags. I remembered the first time that my partner hit me, not my husband.
Not husband now.
Not my husband. No.
Before people start giving my phone call and text. What do you mean?
I, believe it or not, I never knew about domestic violence. So I remembered he'd said to me, don't put any hair clips in my daughter's hair. So now, remember the connections? My child, we've got a child together.
Okay.
So one day I decided to brush her hair up and put a little bubble in there. He'd seen it. And that was it. Wow. Mike.
Wow. Mash up Roger.
Just for putting a bubble in her hair.
Wow.
I remembered going home and saying to my sister, you never do guess what just happened, and explained to what happened. And we sat there scratching our heads trying to work out, is this right? Because I've never heard about it. I mean, I'm going back, 20 something years, 30 years now. We've never heard about domestic violence. So I think we really need to get these young girls, quite young, and the boys.
Absolutely.
So it's not acceptable to hit a woman.
Yeah, not at all. Or for a woman to hit a man. It's not acceptable for anyone to anybody.
Yeah, full stop.
Yeah.
And so I just think, get the girls young.
Yeah.
And just educate them. Let the boys know. This is not right. And let there be, I don't know if there's going to be, if I should say repercussions, because there is. But there's by then, how many women have been murdered by the time that guy's been arrested? So we need to really catch it early.
And I think it's one, like you've said as well, it's one that I think is important to educate people. I remember doing a women's aid course, and she was explaining about the temperament of women, where women are like rubber bands, and they can stretch, and it can stretch, and it can stretch, and it can stretch, and then one day it pings. But that threshold before we get to that breaking point can be quite a very long one. They can be tired before they get to breaking point. And so in that time period, there could be a lot of women going through domestic violence, never hitting breaking point, but hitting tired point of just, this is just how it is. If I avoid the arguments, if I avoid stuff, then I'm safe.
See, that's the difference with Amber. She wasn't avoiding the arguments.
Yeah, well, she was going in with...
So that's why, you see what I'm saying? There's things to say. There's something not quite right here. She's kind of winding him up. I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah.
So the women that do go through domestic violence,
Yeah.
from my experience, are trying to avoid it. They're actually
Yeah.
shrinking, they're disappearing, and even their families will notice, you know, that
Yeah.
they're not that person they used to be. They just
Yeah.
want everything to be.
But I think it's fair to say, and if you are listening to this and you're in a relationship, if your relationship is held by fear, then it's not a relationship.
Absolutely not.
And I think that's got to be very clear for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think it is at a point where I think both need help.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you do access support, whether it's talking to a friend, whether it's using services like coaching or
Yeah.
rather, put my business in there, or even relate and stuff like that. Where,
But it's not a relationship issue. It's his issue.
but is it though? Because I mean,
Yes,
if you look
you
at
cannot bring them together and try and resolve this, because he will say anything it takes
yeah,
for you to believe that he's changed.
But-
you pull them apart.
yeah,
It's a he issue. He needs to sort himself out. She needs to be safe. And if they've got children,
Yeah.
they need to be safe. Don't try and do it together as a relationship. It's got nothing to do with the relationship. It's him.
the reason
Or
I
her.
ask if it's a relationship then, and the reason I came from that small angle is, I'm under the belief then that sometimes men or women, that they wind up the other person in the relationship for that, knowing that it's gonna, if they keep pushing the button enough, the result is he's gonna go back to ape state and he's gonna hit me. Or if he winds her up enough, then she'll hit him.
I think I've come to the conclusion now. There's a
Yeah.
difference between domestic violence, DV,
Okay.
and there's a new one I've put in,
Okay, what's the new one?
AH, Amber Heard.
Oh.
That's the one we're talking about,
AH.
winding up.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Farce.
That's different.
Yeah.
Completely different from domestic violence. That's controlling, that's belittling you.
Yeah.
You know, that's physical violence.
Yeah.
Just completely different from what we heard or what we know of with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp.
But you know what's crazy? I've seen, and I'm not putting people out blast, but I've seen more women belittle men and kind of bug them,
Yeah.
or I'm going to use the word that a lot of women don't like to hear in relationships, particularly nag them
Yeah.
to the point where the guy's like, I'm in the corner. I'm gonna retaliate in some way.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's acceptable.
Yeah.
But I love the saying, if the only tool in your arsenal is a hammer, then everything that's available will look like a nail.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually he's going to retaliate in a way that might be
Yeah.
violent. I mean, there's different ways that some people retaliate in abusive relationships. So if
Yeah.
someone's nagging, then
Yeah.
he might go off and cheat.
Yeah.
Or she might go off and cheat. It's
Yeah.
like it's both. They might just run off and not be seen again,
Mm-hmm.
or they might take up addictions, which is something else we need to be looking at as well.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be an avenue where if you push. It's like they're saying, if you block water,
Yeah.
water will find a way to get
Yeah.
out somewhere. And so it's important to recognize that you're not the perpetrator or the victim. You
Yeah.
recognize your place in this
Yeah.
role.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you said that when you spoke to your sister, you both were kind of like, well, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And I think that was 30 years ago, and I'm sure we've
Yeah.
got people
We're a lot
today.
further on now.
Yeah, but do
think.
you think it's still taught enough? Because I've never heard it in church again, and I'm not putting responsibility onto church, but there are a lot of vulnerable people in
Yeah.
church who, particularly a lot of single women who are looking for men,
Absolutely.
and the brothers are not always. The brothers that are in church are already married,
yeah.
or there's some kind of question around their loyalty or who they are, and so they might find more attraction on a guy who doesn't go to church at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes you might get that kind of unequally yoked
Yeah.
attitude. And then you and then there's issues in the relationship. I'm not saying that's everybody that doesn't go
Yeah.
to church, but
Yeah.
it tends to happen
Yeah.
in that way. So what responsibilities do we have as community, church and family?
I think let's go back.
Okay, let's wind it up.
When you're looking at the perpetrator,
Yeah.
they don't just wake up one day and they're that person. You might find a relationship before and before
Okay.
that and before that. They don't just we're not
Come
talking
one day and start,
there's
Okay.
something in them that needs to change. And that's why I said to you, it's not a relationship issue.
Yeah.
It's them.
Individual.
'Cause if they break up and she managed to get away,
Yeah.
he'll move on and the next lady is going to go through
The same.
exactly the same situation.
Yeah.
So it's not a relationship issue, it's a he issue.
Or she.
So, or a she issue, or a she issue. So, So we do need to just be more, careful and be more vocal about. We do need to start talking about it, basically.
Yeah.
We do need to start
Yeah.
talking about it. But when I was saying to rewind, I just know that there's a pattern in these guys or women.
Yeah.
There most definitely is a pattern.
Yeah.
And a lot of women might choose to ignore that pattern and go, oh, he won't do it to me.
Yeah.
It won't do it to me. So I do believe that if you see the pattern, if it's happened in a previous relationship, that's a red flag.
Do you reckon once is enough? Because I know some people are like, oh, he was angry that day, or she was angry that day, it wouldn't happen again, and then it turns into Street Fighter, and then when you look again, it's a couple of years down the road and it's still happening.
Once.
So once is
Yeah.
one too many
Yeah.
times. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're in a relationship and you are hearing and it has happened once, then again, I think
Alarm bells.
massive alarm bells. And but I'm also going to say as well, I think again, I'm not putting the responsibility too much on the church, but I am. I think this is where it's important that maybe they uptrain themselves as well, or maybe find services that do train in this area, and invite them down to an evening with some coffee and teach the congregation and the churches how to spot these things, but also how to support. Because I think support's going to be the thing. I think if some people are in a domestic relationship and they need an escape, but they feel there isn't no one they can go to, then that's more prison than the prison that they're already in.
Absolutely.
So I think we need to kind of get back to our old school mothers who would invite people around their house every Sunday just to feed them, just to let them know there's a house here, like there's somewhere to come.
Yeah.
And I think COVID has kind of locked us from doing stuff like that, where I remember when we was younger, Mum used to invite people to our house all the time after church. I'm not going to lie, I was vexed though, because there was times when I was thinking, I just want to chill in my yard. When you've invited guests, you have to be kind of like hospitable to whatever the way it is, and you have to be nice to them and talk. And sometimes you're like, just want to play in my garden, just want to chill. But now I've got to be host.
Yeah.
But actually looking at that now, I recognise that a lot of those people we're still friends with, those people are still supportive, and it was because the doors were open.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying those people were in domestic situations, but I think they knew us well enough that if they were,
So if something was off,
they
you
knew
would have
somewhere
picked
to
up on
go.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
knew somewhere to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's something maybe we need to be looking at within our communities,
Yeah.
where we can have that safe. Because I think one thing I've stopped saying, asking people is if they're all right. So, you know, you see someone, you're like, oh, you're right. Yeah. But you're not interested. It's not a real word.
Well, you naturally just say yes, even if you're not. All right, if somebody goes, you're all right, yeah, but I'm not, because it's just natural for you to just say yes.
I've started to say hi now.
Have you?
Hi, or if it's someone that's more familiar, I say wagwan. Let's get back to our old school. Because I think I think the problem is we water down words so often that its true meaning and nature and relevance is gone. So
Genuinely.
so if someone genuinely was asking, are you all right?
Yeah.
That opens the door for the conversation. And I think if we did it more often, then maybe people would feel a bit more relaxed to have that conversation and say, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
But because it's just a general term,
Yeah.
and it's a general practice term to say, yeah, I'm cool, then you're not. And I think that's where we're losing quite a lot of people. I mean, I read a stat earlier today of how much men who are in domestic violence,
Absolutely, yeah.
but actually their out is suicide. So that increases in the suicide rate of men killing themselves because of something like that, or addictions. And I'm not saying this is okay, but things like abuse from young. So they do say that often perpetrators who abuse women, particularly from a male's perspective, there's been some kind of incident in their upbringing that made them do what they're doing in their relationship. An interesting one I read, I'm going to shut up now, was over-mothering can create an abuser.
Really?
Because it's lack of control. So now they come to a role of, what they call it again now, maturity and masculinity.
Yeah.
And the woman is doing everything. And society says, as a man, you're supposed to lead, and there's expectations on him. So now their expectations is, I can't control my mum, but I can control her. And you've seen it in like movies and conversations where if the mum doesn't approve of the lady and the lady's too outspoken to the guy, then he wants both worlds. But to control both worlds, he obeys mum, but silences the woman.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But to me, there's no excuse.
I mean, we're not playing excuses here,
no
yeah.
excuse for it.
Yeah.
So whether you've seen your dad hit your mum, or your mum mothered you, there's no excuse for a man hitting a woman.
No,
You're
not
in
all a
control.
woman hitting a man. I have to keep saying that as well.
Yeah, you're in control.
Yeah.
Of your emotions and your, yeah.
And you know what? And this particular one for a lot of younger women out there as well. And I'm not talking like school age ones as well. But I think there's a lot of vulnerable young girls out there who are very quick to still get in relationships and want children and have what I think is a TV relationship without the education and get themselves into all sorts of trouble.
I think that was my issue.
Yeah.
I'd watched The Cosby Show. And I really
Bill
believe...
Cosby, innit?
And now at the time, I really believe that's how families were.
Okay.
So that's what I thought I was going to get when I had my partner and my children.
Yeah.
So I didn't see a man hitting a woman. I just didn't see it.
No.
So that's why I'm saying we need to talk about it. Talk about it to the young girls, talk about it to the young boys before they get to an age where they're trying to work this out. And
you know what? I'm going to pull it out there. If there's any guys out there or women out there who have been the perpetrator, it'd be interesting to have them on the show.
Yeah.
Only to hear what they're... Because, I mean, I think there's two sides to... Well, I say there's a side to every story and in between there's the truth.
Yeah.
And I think... I agree that to a majority of people, it's excuses what they give. Like I've heard people say, like, "Oh, I just lost my temper and I just went blank."
Yeah.
You wouldn't, because would you have done that to your employer?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Or if someone like a police officer did the exact same thing,
you've got control then.
You've got control then. So I think it's selective control.
Yeah.
But I've never been in a position where I've wanted to. I mean, I will be honest with you. There's a times when my wife got on my nerves so much that I just wanted to squirt the fairy liquid on her. Like I was washing up, and just pick your times and like, and you didn't, and you're like, I just want to squirt this fairy liquid and just grease up your hands. But that would be the extent of my violence. Yeah, like I just go on a computer and just mash up somebody on there, innit? The virtual.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think.
But that's as far as your mind goes, to squeeze it in her hand as well. You didn't even say in her face.
Nah.
So that's
liquid's expensive, liquid in someone's face. Yeah.
You're supposed to have a serious conversation.
I'm sorry, I do.
Can I ask you something?
You can.
You said about male domestic violence.
Yeah.
And their way out is suicide.
Yeah.
If a man went to you and said, "Look, my partner's beating on me,"
yeah,
what would you say, or what would you do?
Can I be 100% honest? It depends on the guy. Now, and the reason I say that is because I think if I saw a guy who I respected highly, and he's looking buff, he's looking strong, and holds a real good position, and said that, I'd be a bit stunned, like, nah.
You wouldn't believe him.
I'd struggle to believe it because the two in my world don't match. So that's what the issue would be. But I think if anybody else came, so if a general guy just came and said, you know what, she's hitting me and I'm being attacked. And in my role, in my job, I've seen it with younger people because we support young people, and I've had it once where a young guy said, "Nah, she keeps hitting me."
Yeah.
And my first reaction was, just tell her to move, man. Like, there's authority in your voice.
Yeah.
But then I caught myself and I had to call him back and said, no, actually, tell me more. And I had to have him talk to me.
Yeah.
Because I was ready to be absent-minded and think, just man up.
Yeah.
Because that's a term we heard. But I hate the term man up, which is why I would never say it.
Yeah.
But actually, when I realised that he was... For the fact of a guy to open up and talk about it means they're looking for support and escape, and just for someone to kind of turn it with. His situation was he was very in love with this young woman. And I think what made it worse is, like when you've mentioned it as well, they had a child.
The connection.
So for him it was a case of, if I'm not with this person, she's going to stop me from seeing my child. It's going to ruin my life. And I can see why some men would then probably take that suicidal route, because as men we're not very emotional in terms of, we're never trained to talk our issues out. Guys aren't, you know what I mean? Like, I've done sessions before with people where I've said, if you look at cartoons, we're kind of programmed from young, so cartoons and shows, girls are taught to be nurtured, so they've got dollies, they've got responsibilities, they're cooking, and then you've got Nerf blasters, and you've got water guns and water bombs, and riding bikes, and it's younger boys. So we're grown, or we're shown, if you're angry, take your frustration out physically.
Yeah.
Whereas women, you've been shown to take it out in an emotional sense. And so I get why some guys would end their life, which isn't great and isn't right.
Yeah.
But I think we're not in a position where we talk enough.
I know.
But we're not encouraged to talk enough. And I think we can't always do it, because I think it's not natural for a lot of men.
Isn't it?
Or if someone said to me, I did counselling before, and they was like, okay, so tell me how you're feeling. What does that mean? Like, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I'm bored. Is that a feeling, or is that just an emotion?
Yeah.
I'm missing the football for this session, so I'm annoyed. And they were like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
In my head, I was getting angry, like, this cannot finish quick enough, because you're asking me to talk about my emotions.
Yeah.
And it was a lady that was my counsellor at the time.
Yeah.
It was interesting, because when I spoke to one of my mentors, who's a male, the conversation was different. How you doing? Yeah, oh man, I'm gonna go this. Ah, for real? Yeah. Much more different flowing, and I think it's the communication style, rather than the issue, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So do you think there should be more male advocates out there for domestic violence?
I think we should be. Yeah.
So you got Women's Aid.
We've got Women's Aid, and again, but that's always seen as Women's Aid. So where do the guys go? There's no Men's Aid.
They can go. There is ways, but there's nothing as obvious as Women's Aid for men. There could be, but I'm not.
And again, it comes back down to that humiliation, isn't it? My wife's 5 foot something, like 5'2", so she's short.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've convinced myself I'm 6'11". I'm not. I'm probably like 5'11". I'm taller than her anyway.
Yeah.
That's my point. But if I was to go to like the police or people and said, my leprechaun-looking wife beats me up, and they said go to Women's Aid, like, nah.
I know.
Nah, you crazy?
Yeah.
Are you mad? Me going? It's more humiliating.
I can't remember off the top of my head. There is something, but it's not as everybody's heard about Women's Aid.
Yeah, everyone's heard. Yeah.
But is there something?
I feel like that needs to be Googled. I'm going to put this at the end of the show where you can find those details, because I think it is important. Actually, we don't just want to tell people about the issues. We do want people to recognise that there are places that they can go for that level of support. Yeah. But I think like we said before, first of all, if you are listening to this and you believe that your family member or friend is going through domestic violence, then, what conversations can they have just before we finish? What should they be saying to them I
just think you've got to just always be there for them. Just if you need me, no matter what time of day, call me if you need me to pick you up. No matter what it is, because I've said that to my girls. Yeah. No matter what time of the day, me and my husband have said, call us, because I know that I've had to call my brother to come and pick me up. Yeah. When I was, really in a dark moment. Yeah. My partner had beat me up, left, and I was in a right state, and I had to quickly call my brother to pick me up, and he came. Yeah. So we have to, even though we might keep going back, as women do, you still have to say, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Because one day something's going to click, and that woman is going to leave forever and not turn back. And the man, if he's the one that's going through it, will leave forever and not turn back. Yeah. So we just need to be there. And it can be frustrating as a friend where you keep saying the same thing, and they keep going back, and you think to yourself, you must love lick then, innit? Because I've been telling you, and I think sometimes as friends and family, suggestions and advice is easily given, but not necessarily easily taken, because you're not the person in that situation. We're saying, why are you putting up with this? Yeah. We said that to women, innit? Nobody's saying to the man, well, why are you doing that? Yeah. Why are you hitting her? Yeah. Just why are you putting up with it? Easy said than done. Need to ask the perpetrator, why are you doing this? We need, well, I don't want to kind of put them on. And if they do come and say, we'd like to talk on the show, we're not going to put them on there like, Victim, you talk, and, we're not going to grill them. But be prepared. This is like, this is me and Rose on here. We're going to go in. Yeah. So we're going to ask some questions. It's understanding, innit? Yeah. You need a better understanding. But I still think there is no excuse. No, there's no excuses. You should never hit anybody and physically hit violence towards anybody or verbal abuse, unless it's a traffic warden.
but again, be careful of the views that you give. I'm not fans of traffic wardens, and it's in the Bible that there shouldn't be. But anyway, so one service that men can access is mankind.org. It's a male victims of domestic abuse, and you can call them. You can go on the Gov website if you're in the UK. I'm sure there's others in other countries if you're listening. And there's mensadviceline.org, which you can go into from specifically for men who are going through stuff. And again, they are open to all nationalities, so not just those in the UK. So there are services out there for men. If you are attending a church, then I would suggest maybe talking to someone in a senior position. And if you are a church listening, I would recommend maybe you retrain yourself and the team, because you could be saving lives. And not just physically, but emotionally. And one we didn't talk about was the children who grow up in these environments.
Absolutely.
Because, so...
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? We've come to the end of the show.
I know.
And there's so much more we could have been discussing on this one as well. Like, R. Kelly just got 30 years. I'm not going to go into it now.
It is. Do you think he should have got more? What do you think?
I think they took too long to do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think he should have got in trouble a very long time ago. But it comes back down to that whole O.J. Simpson situation, isn't it? We all knew, but no one wanted to say nothing. And I feel like, and this is where it gets a bit technical, I think there's a lot of people that knew what was going on, didn't say nothing, and should be held accountable. Jay-Z, Kurt Franklin. Anyway, I'm not going to go any further. But
they all knew.
Well, Kurt Franklin, and this is why I'm coming off topic now, but one of my passion ones is when gospel artists, we bring on secular artists and we're singing. And remember Kurt Franklin, that big tune, I Am Here. And R. Kelly was on there. It was some big lines, man. I do love, I'm all vexed, I enjoyed the tune. But the fact is, it was around the same time that all this was happening. Man. So... I don't know.
Shun the very appearance of evil.
Yes, man. I feel Kurt Franklin owes me some money.
Okay.
He can afford it.
Okay.
He can buy me 2 Subways. Anyway, Chuck.
Can phone in to defend himself.
No, I don't want to talk to him. Just I send him my bank details, my PayPal. Guys, you have been listening to Blue and Rose on, I was going to say One Extra. We're not One Extra. Not at all, no. It's Affinity Xtra. Okay, so you've been listening to us both. I hope you've enjoyed it. And again, leave your comments. But from us to you, God bless and take care.
Bye.
Peace.
Yeah.
Hi, and thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe, you like, and you comment, and make sure that you're sharing the videos and watching so much more. We have loads of content for you. I hope you enjoy. See you soon.